Now, if you own an insulation business and you are looking for a software for your crew size of more than 5 people, then let's be honest, the market is scattered all around place. There are measurement software, there are takeoff software, etc. But there is no one single software which can fit into your workflow. And there's a couple of reasons for it. For example, if you're a HVAC or a plumbing company, your job scheduling process, for example, is very, very simple. You have a job incoming, it can be a maintenance plan you have to schedule, or it can be a one-off, or it can be an installation ultimately, and you have to just put it on the calendar and who is going to go. Mostly it's the same person, but in the insulation business there is crews first of all, and then secondly it's phase wise installations or any projects that you do. So in phase 1 it can be, for example, removal, phase 2 can be installation, phase 3 can be cleanup, for example, and different crews are going on different days. And this is exactly what FieldCamp is meant to handle. When we started building FieldCamp, we were looking at the market, for example, like Jobber, House Call Pro, etc. And we realized that this was one of the pain statements. And how we did that was by talking to actual insulation businesses who were using these softwares. They eventually moved to FieldCamp, but they helped us identify what were the loopholes. For example, when an insulation contractor uses Jobber, the job scheduling for a multi-day project phase wise is a problem. Estimation process with good, better, best option is a problem because Jobber is not meant to handle these kind of complexities. And your insulation business is very dynamic. It's mostly like a construction workflow which is there. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to actually walk you down through the FieldCamp's entire process, ultimately how FieldCamp is meant to handle the entire insulation workflow, from a request coming in from your construction email or, for example, a website, any single place, then scheduling the measurements, estimates, takeoffs, then the CRM piece of it, then estimation, then scheduling, dispatch, and then ultimately invoicing it. What I'm not going to cover in this video is how the FieldCamp's agentic platform can be utilized for your insulation business. So what I mean by that is, in FieldCamps we have something called as agents. What these agents are meant to do, these agents can automate a lot of your internal process. You can think of them as AI teammates. Few examples for insulation business are, for example, that let's say when a request comes in from your construction partnership or builder saying, hey, we need this site to be measured, then what you need to do is you need to create that request in FieldCamp, and that request should automatically create a project in your site measurement tool. For example, FieldCamp syncs a two-way integration with ArcSite, Hover. These are measurement tools. Now you want to create a project in them, then your estimator is going to take measurements, AR diagrams, pictures, every single thing, and those measurements need to come back to the system where you need to make estimates, phase-wise scheduling, etc. So there is one agent. What it can do is it can create these projects and schedule the estimation. The second agent, what it can do is, once the measurements are in, create a draft estimate based on how your estimation processes work. So these are examples of agents that we will cover in another video. In this video, I'm just going to give you an overview of what the FieldCamp workflow will look like. Now, as you can see on my screen, I am on the FieldCamp's request tab. So the first thing for an insulation business ultimately is, when someone asks you for your services, for example, that can be a residential homeowner or it can be a commercial construction, whatever it is, and they are going to reach out to you in any way of communication, which can be, for example, it can be a close one, so WhatsApp, message, calls, or it can be through email, Outlook, whatever it is, through in the unified inbox in FieldCamp. All those channels come into one picture, and off there something is created which is called a request. Now request is just as, hey, we need your services, can we get it scheduled for an estimate, for example. So request is a starting piece of puzzle for an insulation contractor in FieldCamp. Now if you see in FieldCamp, there are all these blocks which are there, and all these blocks, there is a site measurement block, there is an integration block, there is a AR images and diagrams block, etc. So what FieldCamp does is, FieldCamp has this dynamic data model. What that means is it can actually shape to your workflow process. So you can say that in the request stage, when someone contacts us, this is the information which is collected, and then in the next step, this is what happens. So FieldCamp can shape to your exact workflow. And why is that essential? Because if you want to deploy AI teammates into your team through FieldCamp's agents or whatever platform you want to use, you need to first augment your actual business process rather than just working around, doing some workarounds in softwares, etc., like House Call Pro, Jobber, which will not work ultimately because AI agents cannot do any workarounds. So in this request, what information I have is I have this request ultimately which came in. I scheduled a site measurement. So I have the site measurements that come in. In this, I have just integrated Roof Snap software. But as you can see, because of the two-way integration, all the diagrams and measurements came right here into FieldCamp ultimately. And then all the measurements and everything was here. Now there is a create estimate from Roof Snap measurement. This is a AI enhanced feature where what we can do is you can task a AI agent to just say, take these measurements, follow my process and create a draft estimate ultimately. And then there is of course pictures or anything that your team is going to take. So in this screen, what I'm trying to show is once you have a request which comes in, you schedule a measurements ultimately or an estimator going on site doing the measurements, then all of that information can tie back in to the main request which was created. So you don't have any scattered projects. For example, in Company Cam you have one thing, in House Call Pro you have another thing, etc. All of it ties back into FieldCamp's request, which is the starting point of anything. Now the second part of the process is that, hey, all of the requests which are created will be for an entity which is a client, for example. So in the CRM, which is for insulation contracting CRM, over here you have various stages, for example, new leads, active client, etc. So to create a request, you need to create a client first into the system. And then once you create a client, then you can have various stages like new lead, ultimately active client, whatever you want to call it will be right here. And then let's say you are a commercial business and what you do is for each client you have multiple projects, and for each project you have to schedule multiple requests or measurements. Then that is also possible in FieldCamp. What we are going to do is we are going to just create a custom object ultimately which will be called something like projects, and it can be related to clients. In another video we can show you exactly how the data model is customized for commercial insulation business, but just know that by adding projects as a child object of client, it is possible. Then in the request stage, there is the entire pipeline. Request is just not like, hey, create this request, it's a full sales pipeline. So in insulation business, you have to always, most cases, get another sales tool like Leap, Sales Pro, for example. You have to just get it to manage your sales pipeline. In FieldCamp, it makes it easy for your team to converge everything, where you have this request stages, like in request, which is a new request, you have not scheduled it. Once you schedule it, inspection is scheduled where the estimates will be made ultimately, or the measurements will be taken, and then estimate is completed ultimately. So you will see a status code created, then code sent, and then code converted. So request is like your sales tool. Once you have all of this information where the measurements I showed you are taken, you are able to see what measurements were taken, everything is here. The status can automatically customize to your workflow, where rather than having inspection completed, you can have measurements completed. Then it will move through the next step, which is estimates. Now in the estimates, you can take all of those measurements and you can create a nice multi-option good, better, best estimate for this customer. Now in the estimate screen, what you will see is, because I have already created this estimate, you can see three options. One is just attic blow-in, then R38 is there. The second option is attic plus air sealing, and the third one is removal, air seal, attic, walls and crawl space. So you can just give three options to the client. They can see which one makes sense for them, and there are different views which are available right here as well. Now when you are creating the estimate, ultimately you have nice breakdowns of everything which goes into making that estimate. For example, now let's say that this is the first one. Then what's the air sealing, like the labor, quantity, rate, whatever amount is needed, it will be coming right here into that estimate, and you can send it to the client. And one more thing to consider right here is that when you add the products and services, ultimately, you can also specify what's the unit of measure. This is especially important. For example, is it a bag, is it a roll, is it square foot, linear foot, board foot, gallon, pound? What's the unit of measurement? What's the cost of it ultimately? So based on the cost of it and the unit of measurement, you can also have a unit price. So when you create an estimate, it's going to show you a phase wise breakdown of how much profit you are going to be earning on that particular estimate, or what's your profit margin. Once an estimate is converted to a job, now something important happens. When you create a job, in most softwares like House Call Pro, Jobber, which are not meant for installation, insulation, multi-company flows, multi-day flows, in FieldCamp there is option called as multi-day job. This is especially made working with an insulation company, where you select a client ultimately when you're scheduling the job, and then you have templates of what kind of job is this. It's a 7-day insulation project template, it's a 3-day insulation job, it's a 7-day insulation project. What is it? Once you select that template, what you can do is you can configure the schedule. So you can say that on day 1, these are the team members who will go. On day 2, these are the team members who will go. Or you can just say let AI find the best time. Where what it will do is, based on your crew's availability, I want a slot in next like 30 days for this 7-day job, and of course I don't have any team member addresses configured, but otherwise it will just suggest me that hey, for this next upcoming day schedule, these are 7 days ultimately, and on each day these are the team members who will go. And you can go in as much detail, where you can say on day 1 I need these skills ultimately, which are removal skills and polishing skills. On day 2 I need XYZ other skills. Based on that, the AI suggestions will come into the system. What you can do is you can schedule that out. AI will help you figure out who is the right person, rather than you going manually each day to seeing, hey, if this person is available, yes, no. Other day, if this person is available, yes, no. FieldCamp's AI, based on the skills, it will tell you who is the right person for each job ultimately. And then there are multiple calendar views, where you can have all the calendar, timeline, resource mapped out. So your scheduling process is far easier, and you can just schedule the entire thing end to end. And lastly, you have the invoicing. You can create invoices same as estimates. The entire process is very same. You can have phase based estimates, you can have visit based or job based estimates, or daily invoices. For example, you can have any kind of invoices, and the flow is fully same as the estimate. And in estimate, that the discounts that you give will flow in directly into invoices as well, and you have to just convert that estimate into an invoice. And one thing I forgot to mention is, for the estimates, you can send it to the clients ultimately, and then when you do send it to the client, they can give you change orders which can come into picture. They can approve or reject one of the options. You can collect e-signatures, and you can have contracts, terms and conditions, and collect deposits if you have integrated Stripe as well. But that's a quick tutorial of how from coming request came in, site measurements were done, then you have a job which is scheduled, you have an estimate which is made, you have an invoice which is made. So entire workflow from a top level can be fit into FieldCamp's software, which is meant for insulation businesses as well with other trades, because of the dynamic data model. In the upcoming videos, I'm going to talk a lot about AI agents, and particularly dive into estimate process and more details.